All right, folks, we are live. It's just me and Bob today. Dan is off to Florida celebrating his girlfriend's birthday. And yeah, let's get into it here, Dad. We got the jobs report coming out. I know we were just talking offline. You kind of feel like it's a non-issue. It's just headline news since it's front and center today.
Yeah, I think that everyone knows that jobs are a big issue right now, and could be all over the place. So unless the number is absolutely ridiculously bad, I'm sure that the market will just ignore it to some.
Is there a chance that it's way better than advertised, where it leads to just some great?
I don't know how. I mean, I just think it's hard for them to get all the data together right now. But
so, is there a chance this data is skewed that comes out where it's not really?
Yeah, they correct data every month from the previous month.
So it's hard to really know.
Yeah, it's something to focus on because they know it comes out right now. But
so it's coming out as we speak, right?
Yeah. I think it's due out right now. I haven't seen it yet.
And, the futures are down 118 points right now. Obviously, I know we've talked about this TikTok deal. It seems like the headline era we're in these days, it's always a matter of time before something comes out with Trump and China. And, like we talked about the last couple of weeks, it's kind of been on the back burner. And here we are again with there seeming to be some, the heat is on again with this whole stuff. What do you make of this?
It's hard to know what to make of it because, these things are serious for a lot of stocks.
Look at Naspers, NPSNY taking a nosedive from this.
Yeah, I mean, even BABA.
Yeah.
Down quite a bit.
Dad, do you look at that? Because I'm a holder of NPSNY, which is kind of like a 401k when you think about it with their holdings. Do you look at companies like that in Tencent and BABA on headline news like this as being able to buy into that weakness?
I don't think I would buy into that weakness, but I would keep in the back of my mind that these stocks are going to be under pressure from constant political banter back and forth.
And how long do you think those headwinds are going to be present? Like, do you see this happening only until the election? Because this is clearly.
I think that is definitely a cutoff point. Political banter, and then maybe a lot of the noise goes behind the scenes.
So when we think about potential outcomes of who's in office, I know we've talked about if Biden wins, the marijuana stocks could really soar. Do you see also this type of situation where a BABA, a Tencent, an NPSNY, if we start gathering information that Trump's not getting reelected, do you think those are good entry points if you time it?
I don't know if I'd go that far because I think that the policy will continue to really hit China hard because they see that first of all, it's a popular thing to do. And I think that's one of the reasons Trump is all over it. And China has done a lot of crazy stuff from all different angles with us. So I think that will continue, maybe less so with Biden, but it's going to be the same general policy. So I don't know. That's a good one.
And what are you looking at today? Obviously, we talked yesterday. I hit you up kind of saying anytime I'm feeling like I'm at all-time highs in my account, as great as it is, I start asking myself, is this a precursor to a sell-off?
Yeah, well, one thing, Danny actually sent it this morning, the call-put ratio, which a lot of people look at.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull that up. Where can I grab that for our viewers here?
I don't know how you grab it for the viewers from your end, but the bottom line is when there's a lot of call activity, that means that people are too bullish. So it's usually a sign that the market might be getting a little frothy short term.
And anytime that, right?
Vice versa. But it's usually the calls more than the puts.
And also, whenever you feel like it's so easy to pick winners, right? Where it's like, oh, I'm buying this and it goes up. I'm buying that. Well, anytime I'm feeling like a savant in the stock market, I know it's time to shift gears.
Yeah, and that's probably a good internal strategy to know when it gets too easy. Take some profits.
Yeah. So
Meanwhile, whatever came out, I didn't see it. The Dow's now unchanged. So it was better than expected, obviously.
so do you see that maybe leading to an end of the week rally here? Because no news is good news, right? In this era that we're in.
I don't know. We'll see what happens. Anything's possible on a day, right?
Yeah.
We've had a lot of move up in the last 7 days, and if the market was down today, that wouldn't surprise me. But
what are there any picks that you're looking at that are still, rotational patterns that have not really come back to life, like a Goldman Sachs? I know banks have been laggards, but there's no lending going on. They've tightened lending. So when
you can't buy these stocks for the reason of what's going on today, because you wouldn't buy them.
Yeah.
But
when is that appealing? When you look at a Goldman Sachs,
you have to look, if you look 6 months to 9 months ahead, which we should be doing with every stock, what is the outlook at that point in time?
Mm-hmm.
Will it be better? Will there be, if you're talking about banks in general, not necessarily Goldman, because they're in a different category, will they start lending in a big way in 6 to 9 months? Will they have fees? Will the bankruptcies slow down or, not be as big as everyone thought?
But if they are as big as everyone thought, is there any upside for the banks if that happens?
Yeah, because the banks have written off a lot of money to pay for bad loans. So they're already anticipating a pretty bad number.
Yeah.
The question is if it gets worse.
So are you looking at a bank if somebody doesn't own bank stocks right now, do you think this is a good opportunity to get in for the long run?
I would start positions in some banks. I would buy JP Morgan. Maybe you follow Buffett into Bank America. The bottom line is most of them will go up together.
Mm-hmm.
But people seem to believe that the best balance sheet is always JP Morgan. I don't know how long Jamie Dimon's going to be there, but he's a definite factor in people liking JP Morgan. And
what are you looking at today? Is anything on your radar, specific stocks?
Well, yesterday I sold a lot of options. I sold Apple options against some of my position. I sold Microsoft options. That put call ratio also means you get nice premiums on calls. So it's a good time to hedge your bets a little bit by doing that if you don't want to take capital gains.
Or maybe shed off a little position for some profits.
Either way, right?
With how much these have run up, when you look at Apple, Facebook, it gets to the point where there has to be some wind let out of these sales at some point.
Yeah, but I'm still seeing tremendous buying from these Robinhood types. There was a new issue yesterday, Rocket Mortgage. I don't know if you followed it.
No, I didn't.
Symbol's RKT. It really didn't act well before it came out. They were kind of projecting 20 to 22 as the price range, and it came out at 18, which means this is not a good IPO. The stock started trading. It traded below 18, then a little bit above 18, and then it basically rocketed through 18, and now it's over 24. Guess what? Robinhood, number one stock of the day yesterday.
So is that a good short candidate here?
No, I wouldn't go near it because these guys have power that we've seen. And, why couldn't they take it up to 30 or 40?
But what factor for our viewers with this Robinhood thing? How much are some of these stocks being overinflated just off of this FOMO effect where you see a radar of a big mover and then people are just piling in?
Well, a lot depends on the outstanding shares. The less outstanding shares, the more influence they can have. And you take a new issue, it doesn't take long for all the volume to get through and anybody who wanted to sell it to be done. And then it's all retail investors that are in it, and they feed off each other, and it can go for a while. I mean,
and then like we always talk about too, there's that short squeeze where you have people that are banking on a stock going down. Like even if you look at Zillow yesterday, part of what I noticed with that next level pop, you had people having to cover positions on the short side. Some bears that were thinking, oh, this
look, and that happened to Dan and I yesterday in Plug. I mean, a lot of Plug's move was short covering off of earnings that were okay, but they weren't, to the races.
Mm-hmm.
And they took the stock up 20%. It didn't close up that high, but that's an example. And Apple doing their split, this is why I actually brought up Rocket to begin with. Leading up to that split, people are thinking that the Robinhood gang are going to be all over Apple, which is a big holding, because the price is going to be less. It'll be, split in four. And
hold on here. I'm pulling up dance with this screen. Let me get this going for us here.
What happened?
I'm trying to pull up the screen for the viewers.
On what?
On your Rocket. Can you see it?
Yeah, there it is. So after it closed up 3.5 yesterday, as you could see, up 19.5%. I would guess almost every institution is out of that. It wasn't in good hands to begin with. Probably a lot of hedge funds that were disappointed in the way it was priced and whatnot. And now it's off to the races in the aftermarket. It's 24.30.
Wild.
It is. It's a wild story. And
so you're staying away from this?
Well, yeah, we don't. First of all, we have no idea what's going on other than it's a Robinhood event.
Yep.
So if you look at other stocks that they've gotten involved in, it's craziness. Eastman Kodak up to 60.
And Dad, I have Zillow up. I'm the large holder of these guys. Take us through this chart because we keep talking about them going into no man's land. It's pretty wild what this company has accomplished since the lows of the pandemic. At one point, this stock was down in the mid-20s, and it's now trading over 80. What do you make of this?
Yeah, well, I think what I call no man's land is when a stock is absolutely above all previous highs and on a rip, and that's where this is. There's no way to look at a chart and take anything from it other than possible entry points on a pullback.
But Dad, from your experience of years in the market, can you shed some light for our viewers on when it's possible a company is hitting a new trend off of their model shifting? When you look at a couple of things here with Zillow, when you looked at their CEO, Richard Barton, coming back into the mix a couple of years back.
That was a pivotal point right there.
It was.
People that believed in him bought the stock and are playing it long term, I would say.
And it almost feels like he has this Musk-like aura around the street where there's certain people, like my buddy calls him Richie Rich, where he has this vibe of, people don't take him seriously or they absolutely love him. And it seems like there's a couple of these types of sectors that, the Beyond Meat, the Tesla, the Zillow, where you've got these brand leaders in a sector that are also ahead of the curve of a movement. And when you look at the pandemic with Zillow, with house flipping, it was almost this pandemic was the best thing that could have happened to them for ebbs and flows of buying and selling real estate.
Look, I think a real estate is one of the most painful transactions that people can do. And when you think about how many millions of dollars change hands at a touch of a button in stocks and how ridiculous the process is in real estate, I think they're onto something. Whether they could pull it off is another story, but I'd love it. I would love to be able to press a button and buy and sell real estate.
Well, there's a guy I met through Paul's buddy who started a company that is, I think they are going public. It's called Lux, which is basically that version for commercial real estate where you could buy and sell fractional shares of major properties around the world.
Yeah, but that's a different thing than what Zillow's trying to do.
Well, they're more doing it in the residential world where me and you, if we wanted to go scoop a place, we could.
Right. I think the biggest problem with real estate is all the information you need to get and before you make a purchase, and all the information they need on you before they'll make a sale. It's a tedious, absolute horrible situation to go through. Plus, the commissions are through the roof from the person buying or selling.
That's why Leon started Yo Revo with chopping those commissions in half.
Yeah, well, I mean, the commissions like stocks. Stocks used to have huge commissions, and now there's zero. And there's no reason real estate can't go that same direction.
And Dad, it doesn't hurt, right? When Zillow, when you look at where they've gone up to, it obviously helps their case to build on more momentum with the times. People keep believing in this. No one really knows what to expect. I mean, it seems like a rocket ship type of stock. It'll pull. Obviously, it's been volatile over the last few months, but it keeps hitting new highs.
Yeah, I think that it comes down to, can they pull it off, and will the market continue to believe they can pull it off? I didn't look at their numbers, but I'm sure they made plenty of mention of it in the conference call about how it's going.
I was listening in. It's phenomenal. It's going phenomenally well. I think that when you think about how many people are moving out of cities and, switching gears here and selling their places in the cities, buying in rural areas, whatever the case may be, like we talked about, it's the volume of the transactions. It doesn't matter the price point as much with them. They also have an advertising model.
Yeah, well, it's also how many people buy a place or are thinking of buying a place and don't look at Zillow. I think everyone looks at Zillow.
Everyone looks at Zillow. I was talking last night. I was out with Eric and Alex and Eric's fiance, Lisa. She's like, oh, yeah, I'm on there all the time, as am I. Like, naturally, Street Easy, even with rentals, like their Zillow is above and beyond. And when you look at the eyeballs on their platform, their advertising now is popping off.
Yeah.
They're not just house flipping. It's a two-headed sword.
No, I definitely think they're onto something big. And it could be another, Tesla type situation.
Well, I'm going to just anchor. I mean, I got in early this week at 67, 500 shares, and I'm a happy camper with that. So what else are we looking at today?
Well, I think Apple and Microsoft are just the juggernauts of the market. Apple's looking down about 3 right now, and let's see where Microsoft is. Down $1. I mean, I don't know what it means for Microsoft if they get this TikTok, but obviously the market perceives it as just unbelievable if they'd actually pull it off.
Well, I think we have to dive into that TikTok's model a bit with Microsoft. The reason it's so sexy, I think, for investors is because when you think about Microsoft owning Xbox, and this is how I look at it at least, you've got a very young demographic that is glued to their system, and where that can go with TikTok with the interactions, being able to have on-demand games with people competing with each other with, quick screenshots. Who knows what they'll do with that? But it seems like there's a lot of oomph to add more revenue into what they're doing with Xbox on a whole nother level.
Yeah, the question is, what is it worth for them to pay, and what are the revenue streams going forward? And
I've been hearing rumors, Facebook is in the mix here of trying.
Yeah, that was the headlines yesterday.
Yeah. So, what is your take on that? Like,
they're starting a platform,
Reels,
TikTok.
Well, I was telling a couple buddies yesterday, I don't think it's a coincidence that Zuckerberg rolled that out around this TikTok Microsoft news. I think it was a precursor for him to be in the mix for this bid and be able to justify it.
Yeah, well, it helps them justify it from, the Justice Department and the anti-competition, right?
And I wouldn't even I would not put it past Zuckerberg. If you remember what happened with Instagram at the 12th hour, they were about to sell to Twitter, and he pulled a rabbit out of that bag or hat, whatever you want to call it. And sure enough, they ended up rolling up Instagram for $1 billion, which might be the best acquisition to this date.
Yeah, no question about that. I do not think anyone's getting TikTok except Microsoft. I think
why is that?
because the government has honed in on that, and they, believe that they could handle the security aspects of it.
What is it with Trump and Microsoft? He's so buddy. Even remember that deal that Amazon got axed on that he just gave to Microsoft? What's going on there?
I don't know. Who knows what that is, but I think they've been able to, kind of like Tim Cook has, be able to massage their dealings with the White House in a way where Trump looks at them as allies.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's Tim Cook was clever with that. He knew how to get on Trump's good side.
And look, it's an art to be able to figure out how to maneuver whatever's going on politically.
Yeah.
And I think Apple and Microsoft have done that almost better than anyone. And if you think about Apple in China, they've done the same thing there, kind of like Starbucks has done in China.
Mm-hmm.
And these politicians that come and see Trump, if they're nice to him, he's good to them.
Yeah.
Kind of like old school buddy kind of thing. But anyone who's figured that out has done well with Trump.
Well, I think that's just a human nature thing. Trump likes feeling respected.
Right. And it's at its lowest level. But, some people think it's always more complex than that, right?
It's not, though.
No.
How to win friends and influence people. That's why dogs don't pay rent or ever have to pay for food. Unconditional love. But yeah, I think it's definitely interesting how Microsoft has figured out to, even to me, be in this driver's seat with TikTok, because they were not the company that came to mind.
No.
Facebook is right off the bat.
Right. But look at how much grief Facebook gives the White House.
Well, yeah, I get that. It's just, it'll be interesting to see if they end up coming in here and trying to really make this a competition for TikTok, because I find it hard to believe this is just a turnkey Microsoft deal.
Well, the other side of it is it actually, to me, it helps Microsoft's price if there's competition all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
They could argue they don't want to pay as much if there's a new platform.
I also wonder that. How about Disney? How have they not been in talks for
Disney?
TikTok?
Does not have the money and the balance sheet to deal with this.
Which is unfortunate, because when I think of a company for the future that would be a huge winner for TikTok, with the way Disney's even set up as a culture, yeah. I kind of look at that as a great play for them.
Yeah, it's not happening.
And I heard Apple's in the mix too, though, along with Facebook and Microsoft.
That could be. I just don't know. I don't think there's time for a lot of people to get involved in this thing.
So you think Microsoft has a legit strategy with this roll-up, with what they're already planning on doing?
Yeah, they wouldn't do it unless they had some type of strategy worked out.
It seems like, though, this was something that behind closed doors was being talked about for a long time before it was announced.
Well, it's hard to imagine it just happened in one day. Right?
Exactly. Because how do you get your ducks in a row to be ready to acquire TikTok with the way Microsoft's even structured? It seems like they've had to internally probably shift some things around. We know how complicated M&A deals are. It's not just like, oh, well, this is happening now, we're all good.
Yeah, the one thing with M&A deals is the bigger the deal, sometimes the easier it is, because everything is kind of known about a lot of these companies. So, when you try to put together a small deal that is a private deal, it's harder to know what's going on inside the companies, and it takes as much time almost as a big deal.
It's just, this deal seems very complicated with the China thing and how it's going to be separated. I'm so confused by that with the user data. Like, how's that going to work? They're just going to give the US part of that? Like, that seems a bit confusing to me.
Yeah, I don't know. That's way beyond.
Does any user even know that's on these platforms? That's what cracks me up.
I don't think the users care.
But it's so funny how valuable this data is to the companies, and the people using this that are the data themselves have no idea what it's even being used for. That's always what cracks me up. Is this data sometimes overvalued, the way people in the world look at data?
Well, look, I mean, it's how they figure out advertising dollars.
I get that, but don't you think it gets to the point with customer data where people overvalue it at the helm of some of these companies?
I've thought that for a long time, and yet we're proven wrong by the the amount of advertising that's done on social media.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. I think there's a time and a place, like that story of Target that sent a girl something about her kid on the way, and the father found it in the mail being like, what is this? You're pregnant? I get that to a point, but I think there's a point of diminishing returns with clutterness.
Look, I think everyone's over cluttered with advertising, period.
Exactly. That's why this data to me is a bit overdone all the time.
Yeah, I always use Boulder as an example. They don't allow billboards in Boulder, Colorado. And if you have an advertisement on a bus, almost everyone has to see it because there's nothing else to look at.
But they see it, but do they actually? It's almost like you hear, but you don't listen. From White Man Can't Jump, that whole line where it's like, yeah, you're hearing me, but you're not listening to me.
Right.
That's how I look at a lot of these advertisements that are static that used to be way more effective. That looks like a Fastly shirt. It says easily, though. I wanted to bring up Fastly, though. Easily
distracted by birds.
Bobby Birds. But Dad, let's bring up Fastly for a second here. I know none of us own it, but I wanted to get your take on this. Let me share the screen here for a second. This to me is a situation that I just think it's been oversold off this TikTok news.
Well, this stock, to be fair, this stock was $20 in May.
Yep.
And it ran up to 117. And, numbers came out disappointing, trading today at 86.30. Is that a big deal for a stock that was at 20 in May?
Not at all. Yeah. So you're not at all. You look at this as it has way more room to come down before you would even.
Who knows where it's going? I mean, if you're looking for an entry point, I wouldn't even look at it unless it got down to low 70s, and then still a scary stock.
I mean, it's scary to me that there's that much of a sell-off off of one customer that they might lose. That's never a good sign.
12%.
No, I get that. But you know the deal with that. If you don't have parity on that end of things, it's a problem.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, too. There's a lot of companies that are doing really well. And if you analyze how their customers are divided up, if you have one customer that's like an anchor, that is a dangerous situation for future stock price.
I mean, think about our early food delivery days. You used to always say it too, how it's way better these days where we have parity, where we have a bunch of restaurants doing consistent orders instead of one or two places feeling like they run the show. And you remember that, where it's like, oh, well, we bring in X amount of your business, and they felt like they had leverage as a restaurant owner. Yeah, and the reality is you don't want that.
I'll go back to Plug, which we talk about all the time. Their biggest customer is Amazon. If Amazon decided to all of a sudden do this in-house or go to another competitor, Plug has no orders.
Exactly. So and Dad, take us through that for a second, because Amazon has a history of even like working with companies just to kind of feel out what's going on, and then they start a competitor. Is it possible Amazon competes with Plug at some point?
Well, I don't think so, because it's a different end of their business. I mean, what Plug does is make hydrogen lifts for Amazon's warehouse.
I get that, but you know how Bezos operates.
Yeah, Amazon can't get in every single business that they deal with.
But is that a business that might make sense for efficiency as they keep expanding these warehouses and the way they're moving things around? Think about also the tax breaks they get on that type of futuristic thinking.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's just interesting because Amazon.
The point is, though, if you own a stock that you look at the customers of that company, and there's one or two really big customers and everyone else is spread out, you can't afford to lose that customer.
No, and that's a stock you better tread carefully with, because you never want a lifeline off of one account going awry, and you're like, oh boy.
So when you look at a customer list from companies, if it's really spread out, that's a pretty good sign for a company.
Yeah. So now, what are we looking at to end the week here? Any stocks you're jumping on?
I'm not jumping on anything. I'm looking to pair and see what opportunities are there during the day. I'm not going to be around that much today to do any day trading.
I'm with you. It's been a great week. Not going to get greedy. I sold off some pen yesterday. I timed that Sonos sale really well. I'm looking to get back in there, like you were saying, under 13.
Yeah, we talk about Donkey Kong all the time, DraftKings.
Yep.
This stock has lagged the group. I don't know if there's something wrong with it. It is up $1 today.
I mean, you know what the story is there. It's about this virus with sports. And, you're hearing now 60 NFL players have opted out of the season, which is concerning.
Right. But it's also good that Tiger Woods is in the mix this weekend. And there's a lot of golf gambling going on.
Well, that's a great short-term catalyst. But I think my biggest fear with DraftKings, at least I think they're a phenomenal long-term play, but there could be some dead weight there if this NFL canceled player thing picks up steam.
Well, isn't it over now? I thought the opt-out option is over now.
Sure, it's over. But when you know the deal with that, lawyers get in the mix, you're going to have players opting out still. There's no doubt that's not ending. So that's something to keep an eye on because I think the NFL is the mecca, as we know, of sports gambling. So if there's any inkling of NFL not happening this year, which I hope doesn't happen, that thing can really come down hard, even from here.
Yeah.
So
all right. Well, let's wrap it up here.
Have a great weekend, everybody, and enjoy your Friday.
Bye.
See you Monday.